Good morning, Car Clinic affiliates. 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 Your Car Clinic minutes for the week of 8/22 are about to head your way. So go ahead and press that record button. And as always, thank you for listening to and broadcasting Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great weekend.
Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Pains in the neck, little brothers, filing taxes, and collisions. I can't help you wrestle Uncle Sam, but when I come back, I'll give you some easy ways to avoid whiplash. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. E15 as a choice at the pump benefits engines of today's EPA E15 approved vehicles. The first gas station offering an E15 alternative to drivers of light-duty vehicles, model year 2001 and newer, opened its E15 pumps to consumers in Lawrence, Kansas in July 2012. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol, brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. To avoid whiplash, remember CRASH, C-R-A-S-H. C, click seatbelts every time. R, restrain or remove loose objects, which become projectiles in a crash. A, airbags lessen blows, but remember, kids under 12 should ride in the back seat. S, safe drivers never tailgate. It serves no purpose, and it puts you at needless risk. H, headrest. Misnamed, headrests are really head restraints. But to protect against whiplash, they must be properly aligned. The top of the headrest should lie somewhere between the top of your head to the top of your ears. If only Tax Form 1040 EZ were as simple. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with another Car Clinic Minute. Tony Bennett sang, "Fly me to the moon." Back then, that was a far trip. But now, dozens of closer moons circling the globe make travel on Earth heavenly. I'll position it all for you when we come back. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. According to economic research firm Cardno Intrix, the ethanol industry added $42.4 billion to the U.S.'s gross domestic product. And the production of 13.9 billion gallons of ethanol supported 90,200 direct jobs and over 311,000 indirect jobs across this country. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol, brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Ancient mariners navigated by the one and then only moon. But travelers today negotiate seas and streets alike by a constellation of 27 Earth-orbiting satellites that enable global positioning systems, or GPS. Weighing 3,000 to 4,000 pounds each, GPS's solar-powered satellites circle the Earth twice a day, and GPS receivers pinpoint your location by finding the distance to at least 3 of these satellites, then extrapolating the data by a process called trilateration. The next time you leave your heart in San Francisco, you'll know just where to find it. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Automotive history is filled with famous men like Henry Ford. But have you ever heard of Alice Ramsey and Nettie Powell? Stay tuned, because when I come back, I'll introduce you to the original Thelma and Louise. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. The Department of Agriculture determined ethanol's energy balance to be 1.7 to 2.3. That's to say, today's ethanol production yields nearly twice as much energy as it took to create. Also, in 2011, ethanol use reduced tailpipe CO2 equivalent emissions by 25.3 metric tons. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol, brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Thelma and Louise may have perfected girlfriend cruising, but Alice Ramsey invented it. Joined by Nettie Powell and 2 other women in 1909, Alice, a 22-year-old mother and Vassar grad, hitched up her skirts and took to the road. Well, almost. Actually, there was no real road between New York and San Francisco. But that didn't deter these women on wheels from driving 4,000 miles in just under 2 months. Undaunted by danger and unencumbered by a map, they wound their way from coast to coast using private roads, open fields, and railroad straits during this literal groundbreaking journey. Now that's what I call a road trip. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. All for One may be about musketeers, but if musketeers or mouseketeers or engineers travel together on the ground, I'll tell you about their One for All when I come back. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Americans are outspoken when it comes to choice, so why not at the pump? Opponents claim that drivers will be confused with choices like E15 and E85. This objection is confusing, as studies show that Americans do want a choice. Soon, blender pumps will empower consumers to tailor fueling options to include the ethanol level best suited to their needs. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol, brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. The Three Musketeers may have been all for one, but the mighty bus, a multi-country engineering feat, is the one for all. Short for omnibus, which means for all in Latin, the first bus appeared in Paris in 1662. This 8-seater was horse-drawn, and not until 1831 would steam-driven buses putter around the streets of London. Speaking of which, the first famous double-decker appeared in 1847 and offered half fares to those who climbed onto the open-air second deck. Honors for the first gas-driven motor bus go to Germany in 1895. But today, the omnibus is omnipresent, providing rides for all over the world. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Gargoyles, dragons, and Bigfoot all send shivers up your spine. But Hemi's a monster that really strikes horror in the hearts of men. Now don't be afraid, because when I return, I'll leash the Hemi Beast. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Myth is that ethanol production dramatically increases food prices. Fact is that experts from the USDA, World Bank, academia, and independent consultants all note that a complex range of factors influence food prices, including supply chain costs, weather, and oil prices. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol, brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. The monster Hemi, whose mere sound makes mortals whimper, first paired in 1948 as a 6-cylinder engine developed by Harry Westlake for Jaguar. In 1964, Hemis rose to kings of the jungle at the Daytona 500, taking first, second, and third places. And today, these automotive Hellcats top 400 horsepower. But what does Hemi mean? Hemi is short for hemispherical, which represents the half-sphere architecture of the engine's combustion chamber. Unlike the typical wedge-shaped design, Hemi's rounded dome allows for increased airflow, which means colossal horsepower. Perfect! I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Welcome, folks, to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'm glad you tuned in today and every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time right here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Sign up to be an O Rewards member today and earn 1 point for every dollar spent. Receive rewards twice as fast when you provide your email address. O Rewards members get $5 back for every $150 spent. It's fast, easy, and the best part, it's free. And only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. See store for O Rewards details or go to orewards.com for more. And call, Jan will take your calls at 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. We're going to have a great show today. We're going to talk a little bit about cars. Well, fancy that. And I've also got some information on how to clean your car and information on some new ICEs, internal combustion engines. Just when I thought, and I think we all thought, that you couldn't wring any more MPG or torque or power out of an internal combustion engine, lo and behold, we do. And Infiniti has a completely new engine design. Porsche has a similar design, and I'll tell you about that a little bit as we go along the way. Meanwhile, sit back and ride along with me this hour at 888-227-2546, 888 Car Clinic. When we come back, I'll take your calls. Like us, you'll love us.
O'Reilly. Has the summer heat taken a toll on your vehicle's battery? Count on O'Reilly Auto Parts for the Superstart battery that's right for your vehicle. For a limited time, purchase a Superstart Premium, Extreme, or Platinum battery and get up to a $15 O'Reilly gift card by mail. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Upon EPA approval, advanced ethanol production from grain sorghum will give the nation another option as it aims to meet the federal goal of producing 36 billion gallons of renewable fuels per year by 2022. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Drive to ethanolrfa.org. From the Car Clinic inbox, Jason in Dallas writes, Bobby, the battery in my 2012 Honda just died. I hear you talking about Power Frame. Is this a battery you recommend? And where can I get it? Jason, Power Frame isn't actually a battery brand. Power Frame is the type of grid technology inside select automotive batteries. Why are grids so important? The positive grid provides the energy necessary to start your car, and corrosion of this grid is the #1 cause of battery failure. Power Frame grids are different because the patented grid pattern is optimized for consistent and superior starting power. The manufacturing method and material composition used to produce Power Frame grids result in increased durability and corrosion resistance. In fact, they're 66% more durable than other grid designs like book mold or expanded metal. You can find Power Frame grid technology inside Autocraft Gold and Platinum AGM and CarQuest Silver, Gold, and AGM batteries at your local Advanced Auto Parts and CarQuest stores. For more about Power Frame grid technology, drive to powerframe.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P-Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle Loden or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started. Right along with me this hour, and we'll talk cars. If you'll remember, if you're a regular listener to this program, I've mentioned that engines need different types of fuel under different load conditions. And that's especially true for a gasoline engine. Of course, with a diesel, you've run about 20-to-1 compression or more, so they're very efficient, and that's why they get more gas mileage and they have their torque immediately off idle. And that's where you really get the best gas mileage is down speed and down size, which is what the manufacturers are doing. Ford Motor Company and the EcoBoost, which is one of my favorite engines, although they're changing some things on the 17 EcoBoost because they're adding another set of injectors because of the gasoline direct injection engine, and now they're adding port injection, which is the old type, and they're going to have both those systems. So yes, each engine will have two sets of injectors in that engine, and that is the best of both worlds. So as we see, we think, well, everything is all computerized, and we've grown to the point, or technology has grown to the point that we just can't get any better, but that's just not the case at all. And a little bit later in the program, I'm going to share with you some information that talks about cruising and load and those sorts of things, and why there's no perfect game. When I say perfect game, there's no one size fits all for an internal combustion engine. Turbocharging, absolutely, that's a given, because you can take a smaller engine and get a lot more power out of it. But what if you're just cruising along? Are you using the turbo? So I'll get into that a little bit later, but it has to do with octane. It has to do with a lot to do with cylinder pressure and the engine being efficient. In the meantime, Miss Jan will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. And don't be afraid or scared or concerned that you would ask a dumb question. There are no dumb car questions except the ones not asked. So if you are going to take your car into a service shop, or you have it in a service shop and you just need some advice, I'm your man. I'm your personal car consultant. I'm Bobby Likis. So we're going to go to Detroit now, and we're going to have our Car Clinic reporter on with us. He's a weekly, joins us weekly from Detroit. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you back in the house. Jim, are you there? Okay, we'll have to put Jim back on hold there. Obviously, you could hear the radio in the background as he was listening to the show in the background. So I talked about the internal combustion engine, and I talked about octane ratio. When you are towing a boat, or passing on a two-lane road, or accelerating on the on-ramp to get up to speed with traffic, your engine really needs a higher octane, and that's when that torque is so important. And when you nail the throttle, and even if you don't nail the throttle, even if you're just moderately, but you go about maybe 60 or 70% because you want to come up to speed, then that's when you need the torque of that engine. That's when you really need the power to make that car accelerate and get up to speed quickly. And that's the case where you have a lot of opportunity for the engine to ping or knock or those sorts of things, and that's when you need a higher octane fuel. But what about when you're just cruising down the road? You don't. Let's go back to Jim now, and we'll put him on the air. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Okay, Bobby, I'm here ready to roll with you on car news for today.
Okay, great.
And it's a pleasure to be on the show, as always.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure to have you. What'd you bring us this morning?
Okay, Bobby, I'm going to bring things to you in some different perspectives than I had before. Okay, when I've always been, for the 2 years almost that I've been doing car clinic reporting, against the idea of sharing your car. Now, GM has a new concept to it where I see people in cities where they pay a large fee to park their car in a private garage, where at work they can pay $1,000 a month. In that case, a shared car from GM could be a challenge.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, this is another way to familiarize people with the GM products. And for people out in the suburbs, it's not as applicable because we can get to work and we can park, many of us, right on the lots of the company we work for and are not charged. That's a big difference.
Well, and of course, there are times, and the industry is saying, and I don't know that we'll see this in 5 years, the autonomous car, and we won't go there because we've really talked a lot about that, except to say that if you want to go from point A to point B, you don't have to worry about parking. You don't even have to own an automobile. So for some people, that's going to be a godsend, because you can dial up, just like Uber. You can dial up and your car picks you up, takes you where you want to go. You don't have to worry about parking, and you pay for the miles driven only. So the cost of owning a car. And this is good and bad news, Jim. Folks, it's good news for those individuals in that circumstance in the city, in the suburbs. No, but it's bad news for the sales of new cars. And when you really think about it, if more and more people can hitch a ride and pay for the mileage only, then those companies that are supplying that ride, of course, will be the one buying the cars, and they can buy fewer cars and serve more people.
That's very true. They predict we could drop down to the 90% of cars we have on the road to 70% for cars. 70% on the road is effective to what you just said. So I'm with you on that one completely. Now, let's see what the economy is doing to cars with the new thing that happened in England, where I was worrying about stock prices, and anybody else that owns stocks would be worried about them. Brexit slows down in the UK GM's support of continuing to produce cars, because they're affected negatively by it. Even though they had a good fourth quarter, it doesn't look like the sales are going to continue under Brisket, and GM is pulling back because they want to profit more, and they are seriously considering, if not shutting down, at least slowing down production.
Well, of course, the ebb and flow, and as you've known and you all know, except for Tesla and I think Ford Motor Company, almost all the manufacturers have gone bankrupt at one time or other. But that's business, and that's just the evolution of business. But they are selling a lot of cars now, and people are buying those cars. In fact, with gasoline prices so low, in fact, this week it's $2.15 nationally, which is down in half of the 10 markets that I earmark every week. So when you have gasoline that's so inexpensive, then people are buying SUVs or buying trucks, and there's a lot of profit. There's more profit in SUVs and trucks than there would be in a smaller car. But there again, the manufacturers, not just GM, but Ford, Chrysler, Fiat, all of them, they have to sell the smaller cars that get the better gas mileage for their corporate average fuel economy, because that's by 2025, that's got to be 54.5 mpg, and that's a stretch, Jim. They're going to revisit that, and I believe that they may modify that. In the meantime, it's good for consumers, it's good for us, because cars are getting better and engines are getting better. And just when we think that you can't get any more miles per gallon out of a gasoline powered vehicle, then indeed, and I'll be talking about this in the next segment of the program, perhaps, or at least in today's show, as fits within the show, is an Infinity engine that is an all-new design that has a variable stroke on the piston and a variable compression ratio that can go all the way down to 8.1 for the turbocharged to kick in, which is that's what the Subaru uses, 8.1, all the way up to 14.1 for cruising down the road. It's phenomenal, and it's exactly what you need to do with an engine. I just really wonder how that adjustment is going to last over time, because you have moving pieces within moving pieces in the engine. Anyway, back to you. What else did you bring to us?
Okay, what else did I bring to us? I know we're not going to talk about what's going on in the autonomous field and how many years we're going to get to it, but they already are thinking of rules to make it absolutely as safe as humanly possible that we can design a car.
Absolutely.
And these rules are supposed to be out, and we'll be governed by them. What I'm going to project into it is, let's say we have the slow growth with autonomous cars that we're having with electric. Until we get more electric cars on the roads which can drive safer than us if engineered properly, they can't effectively communicate with each other until we have more of them on the road with each other. Because if we still have the driver driving, he's the one that can still make more mistakes.
Well, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Hey, Jim, thank you so much for joining us on Car Clinic today. As always, it's great to hear from you and to hear the latest on the automotive world, and we'll turn the phones back to the folks that are tuned in. Have a great week, Jim.
You too, Bobby.
And folks, 888-227-2546 is the number. Jan will take your calls. Very interesting. This week in the shop, and just for those of you who are not familiar, some 50 or 60 hours a week, we operate Bobby Likis Car Clinic Service Pre-Repair, which is a full-service, bumper-to-bumper, Bosch authorized service center. In fact, we were the first Bosch authorized service center in the state of Florida and the 8th in the nation. And in order to qualify for that, we had to go to school, we had to buy tools, we had to literally meet some pretty stringent requirements. And what that brings to us was the ability and the knowledge that it takes to work on cars during that era. And that's been 25, 28 years ago. Now we fast forward to today, and that's ever more important because of the technology that's in new cars. I'll come back and I'll take your calls at 888-227-2546. 888 Car Clinic. Don't touch that dial. I'll be back. This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and the G-Max AS03, the ultra-high performance all-season tire. The G-Max AS03 features a V-shaped pattern with aqua-cleave groove elements that help channel and direct water out of the tread for excellent resistance to hydroplaning. Driving on an improperly repaired tire is as unsafe as a tire with worn tread, cracks, or other issues. To repair a tire, the puncture area needs to be approximately a ½ inch or more from the sides and not larger than 1/4 inch hole. The recommended repair is a plug or patch, which requires a very specific procedure, including buffing the inside of the tire, prepping the area to be repaired, and allowing glue to properly dry before reassembly. Not following these guidelines can result in tire failure and put you, your vehicle, and the vehicles around you in harm's way. Learn more at GeneralTire.com. Folks, here's more news regarding our testing of the Diablo Sport iTune i2 Performance Programmer. After several weeks of driving, we continue to be impressed with the features of the i2. Gas mileage has improved a bit, but throttle response has come alive. Dramatic performance improvement with so little work in the way of installation. The Easy Tune features make it, well, easy, asking you things like what octane gas you're using, tire size, and more. Drop a tune on your ride in just minutes. The iTune i2 holds up to 5 custom tunes. Start with preset performance tunes, then make adjustments to suit your own needs. You can also access Diablo Sport's worldwide network of CMR, or custom tuning tuners. Use this software to unlock your vehicle's true potential. Learn more at DiabloSport.com, and while you're there, check out the sizzling savings rebate through August 31st, where you can get money back on the iTune, i2, and Trinity Performance Programmers. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And folks, I appreciate you tuning in every Saturday from 10 to noon Eastern Time on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Also, watch Bobby live. We videocast this program globally at watchbobbylive.com. I'm really proud of that because the technology that is required to do that on a real-time basis is nothing short of phenomenal. And when I say real-time, we are real-time. And so if you're listening to this program, and for instance, it's right now 10:25 Eastern Time, a.m., and you're hearing this at a different time, it's because the station that is airing the program tape delays the program, and that happens to some of our affiliates, and that's fine. But just remember, from 10 to noon every Saturday, you can call and reach us whether or not you're listening to us on the radio or not. You can always go to your iPhone and iTunes, and there's just a myriad of ways that you can tune in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're on our 25th year, and I just thought that I knew a lot about cars, and I'm learning every day that the industry continues to change. Technical service bulletins, we have those folks. We receive 150,000 pages of technical service bulletins every month. So there's no way you could read that many pages. So we have computers and topics, and we can hone in on what we need to know for an automobile. Why is that important to you? Because when you take your car in for a check engine light, and a technician starts to perform some tests on that vehicle, it's called diagnostics. I don't like to use that word because it infers that once you diagnose a problem, you know what's wrong with the car, and that's not necessarily true. It's like a blood test or blood work on your body. You know what that result is, but there's still more, the x-rays and MRIs and those sorts of things. The same thing is true for your car. So there's no hooked one machine to it and tells you everything's wrong with the car. It just doesn't happen that way. Just understand that there's a series of tests, and then there are indications and reports that the car has on board, and it's called OBD2, and that's the computer that's on the car, and it's really a great system. It gets better and better all the time. We're going to take a call from South Carolina from Ken, and also I invite you, Jan will take your call, put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air at 888-227-2546. Ken, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you, Bobby.
What can I do for you?
Well, my question is, I've got a 2007 Dodge 1500 heavy-duty pickup that has the 5.7 Hemi, 5.7 cubic inch Hemi engine.
Yes, sir.
And I've got a ton of miles on it. It's a work truck, and my friend has an engine that it's a 5.7 Hemi, but it has that variable timing on it.
Right.
And I was wondering if I wanted to put this engine in my truck, could I make it work, and what's the minimum things I would have to do to it to make it work?
I have a concern there because your car didn't have that particular cylinder deactivation, right? That's what you're speaking of?
Yes.
Yes. The challenge is the wiring harness for the engine and the computer. The computer that his vehicle was born with and was manufactured with is dedicated to that car, that serial number of that car. So it won't work in your car, and neither will the engine work correctly in your car because it's computer controlled. And I got to tell you, Ken, even on a good day, and we still have in the shop a Ford Focus that we had to put a computer. This car would not run, and we had to put a computer in the car, and we had to program that computer using the original Ford computer. And we can buy some computers that are already pre-programmed in aftermarket. The challenge was for this particular car, it wasn't available. So we bought from Ford Motor Company a computer, but yet when we put it in, we had to take the original computer numbers and go to Ford Motor Company, connect this car to Ford Motor Company OEM site. And I got to tell you, Johnny Bars is our lead technician. He's our shop foreman. He's a master ASE certified automotive technician. I saw him spend 3 hours just programming that computer on that car, and it ran, it cranked, and it ran, and all is well. And lo and behold, when he finished, it had a misfire on one of the cylinders, and one of the injectors is bad. And so we still have the car in the shop. We ordered an injector, and we're going to put it in Monday. Now, we didn't know that because it didn't run to start with. So I just have a concern that what you would do is get in way over your head. And I think that if you have a ton of miles on the engine, what I would do if it were my vehicle is I would buy either a Jasper reman and I'll give Jasper a plug here. I've been to their plant in Jasper, Indiana. They make good products and they have a great warranty. And I would recommend their product. And there are other companies that make engines. Or I would go to Dodge and ask what they have. If they have an engine, a crate motor, it's called a crate motor. So if the vehicle is in good shape, what is the vehicle like? I mean, you said it had a ton of miles, but the transmission. What do you think about the rest of the car?
The rest of the truck. is in great shape, and I've also got a Chevy Avalanche with a 5.3
Right.
that had the active fuel management.
Yes, sir.
And it dropped the lifter in it, and what I did, in fact, the Chevrolet mechanic recommended that I change the cam and the lifters and just
Yes, sir.
reprogram the computer, and I did that, and that engine runs fine. And I was wondering if there was some kind of similar thing you could do to the Dodge.
Not that I know of. Well, yeah, but see, you changed cam and lifters, so you took away that function, but you didn't change any of the timing of the engine, or you didn't change the computer because it was with the car. So it's my concern that you would put an engine from another vehicle that has a technical advancement that yours doesn't, but then you're short on wires and you're short on, and it won't match. So I think that you should stick with what you have. You've got a lot of miles out of it. So if the vehicle is in good shape, then it would be worthy of you spending dollars to replace and you can have that engine, the very engine that's in that vehicle, you can send it if you can have a downtime, and they'll remanufacture that engine to like new specs. And that's where the difference between rebuilding and remanufacturing. Remanufacturing means that all of the parts are refitted to the original size, shape, and surface of a new engine. So that's what I would do. If I were in your shoes, I would stick with what I had and update it versus trying to make someone else's engine fit into my truck with not knowing exactly. You had a good experience with your Chevrolet, but you didn't change engines. You just changed a component in the engine. Any questions?
Right. No, and I appreciate the advice, Bob.
I thank you. I am trying to talk you out of it, of course. You know.
Okay. Well, you have.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let me know if I can help you again. You feel free to call, and thank you so much for calling from South Carolina, Ken.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir. 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to call. 888-227-2546. We'll go to Nebraska. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, Bobby?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jim Cutterback here.
Good morning,
Kearney,
sir.
Nebraska. I talked with you here at KGFW one time when you was here for the ethanol thing.
Yes. That was 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I was a state senator, and you said you never had a state senator come to your program. Anyway,
now I've had twice. That's twice we've had a state senator, Jim. Welcome back.
There you go. Yeah. So you remember? I don't know if you know Paul Kenny or not. Remember, he's the ethanol here at Kappa.
Yeah, I do.
In Kearney.
I do. Ethan, I know his son, and Ethan and Chuck Woodside, all of the guys there.
Hey, you're good. The Marshalls, you know all those people.
I talked to Mr. Marshall 2 weeks ago. I sure did. And in fact, I'm working on something to help him. But anyway, what can I do for you, Jim?
I just got me a 2016 Jeep, and it's a Grand Cherokee. And Paul Kenny had a special on Kappa ethanol for 85 cents a gallon, which is a buy. He had that for 3 or 4 hours at a station down here, a popular station.
Okay.
So I thought I was going to get me a good deal. So I drove down. I filled my Grand Cherokee up and drove it for a while, and not realizing that the Grand Cherokee I have does not run on flex fuel. I put about 20 gallons in it. And so I drove to Omaha to have supper with a former U.S. Senator Friday evening, and boom, 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 it almost quit on me about 100 times. What is, to make a long story short, what happens eventually? Does that eventually work out, or does that hurt the engine? Or?
Yes, sir, it won't hurt it. It will work out. What happens is that a flex fuel has a rather unique capability, technologically speaking, of determining how much ethanol is in the fuel and will adjust the air-fuel ratio. So that's the main difference between a flex fuel car and a non-flex fuel car. And in fact, originally, those cars had a sensor, but that sensor was like $276, and the manufacturer says, well, we don't want to do that. So they came up with another methodology. When you fill the tank, every time you fill the tank on a flex fuel car, it will start over again in measuring the air-fuel ratio of the fuel, and so it uses algorithms, and it's a unique process. Now, back to yours. Now that you burn the fuel out of it, you can go back to the E15, and that the engine will get over it. It will cure itself out because it didn't like the E85 because it can't handle the fact that it leans out the mixture. In other words, ethanol has oxygen in it, so when you use a higher portion of ethanol to gas, that leans out the mixture. And when it does, the catalytic converter says, well, and the O2 sensor says, well, I've got a lean mixture, and the engine is made to richen up. But you're trying to make that engine work outside of a parameter that it's not designed to run from a computer basis. It's all in the computer tuning, and so I would say to you that there's no harm, no foul. Just go ahead and how much of that fuel did you burn out already?
Well, I burned out quite a bit of it, but I did put some regular gas in it, but I suppose I still got, a portion of that E85 in there yet.
Well, not a problem. Just continue to burn that tank out and dilute that 85 with 15, and you'll be fine. That should be no problem whatsoever, sir.
It really bucked. It just like I was going to die, and just bucked and bucked and bucked.
Yeah, I did like.
Anyway, kind of nerve-wracking. Hey, I appreciate
you.
You ever get to Kearney on cruise night? Why? You're always welcome.
Thank
Brad
you so
Koenig
much.
has open arms.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate you again, and I look forward to seeing you when next I get out to Kearney, Nebraska. Thanks and good luck, and let me know how your G works. Thanks. Have a great day, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
How interesting, and what a gentleman. We did have a great time there, and KGFW is our affiliate in Kearney. And we were inside the studio. They've got a unique, it's like a big open room, and then they have studios that are elevated. And I bet there were 150 people in there. We had just a great time. And then the Kearney Central Nebraska a car club has their show. And we had a couple of guys reporting from there. I'm going to come back and take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. Don't touch that dial. Whether driving for sport or from A to B, your vehicle needs to perform, often in an instant. Stant brings original equipment expertise to their line of quality aftermarket products. Today's Instant product spotlight is on Stant thermostats. Proactive trumps reactive in both the human and automotive bodies. So when replacing your vehicle's coolant, proactive vehicular health calls for a new thermostat. Reach for the thermostat professional installers prefer. Stant. Stant's premium grade USA-made Superstat thermostat has a heavier gauge stainless steel housing and larger heat motor for better temperature control. Heavy-duty springs help return it to a closed position to prevent cold running. And Stant's patented weir valve construction gets coolant flowing as the thermostat starts to open. This helps the engine get to peak operating temperature quicker. Stant Superstat thermostats come with a limited lifetime warranty. Just hold one. You'll feel the difference. Drive to Stant.com to learn more or find them on Facebook.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Miss Jan will take your call, and she's been around for some 19 years here in the house. She works mainly on the service side. Is that right, Miss Jan? 19? 18? What did she say? 18? Well, that's close enough. I just remember that during one show, I said she's been here 15 years, and she stood up. I can see her through the window. She stood up and says, no, it's longer than that. So the point is that she works in an environment with a bunch of guys, and she does a really great job. Now, if you think about it, it's a tough environment, repairing and servicing automobiles. If you only knew what every car has its own little idiosyncrasy. Every repair, how far do you go with a repair? And if you're in the business, that's always a challenge, because you want to do what the car needs, but you can't always do what the car needs because the owner either doesn't have the budget in cash or the budget in time, and that takes time. It's taking more time today to service automobiles than ever before when you do it right. Then when you think about it, it always took a lot of time to do things right. And there's a saying in the automotive service industry, why is there never time to do a job right to start with and always time to do it over? And that's really true. So it's something for you to think about when you take your car in. Just because you make an appointment for 8 o'clock on a given morning and you say, well, they can't work on the car all day long, and they've had the car 2 days and it's still not corrected yet, there are, circumstances beyond anyone's control. So I want you to know that so that you can have a little less heartburn when you deal with your local service shop, whether you're listing in California this morning or in Washington or in Oregon or in the state of Washington or anywhere. Of course, Nebraska and Florida and Georgia, Mississippi. 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to call, 888-227-2546. I mentioned Infinity's new engine. This engine is not out yet, but it's going to be introduced at the Paris Auto Show, and it's a variable, it's a VC-T, which is a turbo engine that automatically adjusts between a high-powered 8.5 or 8.1 engine under turbo boost with a compression ratio of 8:1, or that same engine that adjusts the piston location on the rod and moves the piston up higher in the chamber and produces a 14.1 compression ratio. Think about that. Well, what's the difference, you say? Well, when you nail the throttle, what happens is there's a lot of air that goes in. It's all about airflow. Just think about airflow. Don't forget the gas. Forget the fuel of your engine. The octane matters, but let's just think about air, because that's where the power comes from. The more air you can get into the cylinder, and then you mix fuel with it and you ignite that, then it expands because the hot gas is in it, forces the piston down, which drives the rear wheels. It really is that simple, except that what is the optimum compression ratio? And the compression ratio is determined by if you put the piston all the way down to the bottom of its stroke and you fill the chamber all the way up to the spark plug hole with the valves closed, and you've got, say, 1,000 cc's, and then you push the piston all the way up to the top and you measure it and you've got 100 cc's, then you have 10-to-1 compression ratio, and that's how that's figured. So, and there are other factors as well that can be more sophisticated with variable valve timing, but we won't get into that because it can be confusing. But just to tell you, the geometrical standpoint, 1,000 and 100, it gives you 10-to-1 compression ratio. And here's an engine from Infinity that's 8.1 or 14.1. Why is that? Well, when you accelerate onto the on-ramp, you need that power, that raw torque. And horsepower is RPM and top speed. Raw torque is gas mileage and the seat of your pants drawing you away, and you feel that. That's what torque is, and that's where your MPG comes from, and that's why small engines use turbochargers, because that small engine is smaller than a big V8. Let's say it's a 4-cylinder, it's smaller than a big V8, but if you force air into the piston area with a turbocharger, which is exactly that, it's a supercharger that uses the exhaust to turn it rather than a belt to turn it, but it still does the same principle, forces air in, you get more air in that smaller chamber. So that little engine thinks it's a big engine because it has a bigger pressure, and it's called BMEP, or brake mean effective pressure, inside that cylinder. Okay, so why the 14, why the 8? Because when you nail the throttle, the turbo comes on. Well, you can't have 14-to-1 compression ratio and then put all that extra air in there, because you would destroy something, because it can only take so much pressure before it becomes detrimental to the engine. So what do? How can you have your cake and eat it too? And that's what Infinity is really doing here. They're having an 8-to-1 compression ratio under turbo boost. But what happens when you get up to 65, 70 miles per hour and you back down on the throttle? Well, you're cruising. So how do you get the efficiency of that engine? Now, you may have heard me talk about sweet spot, and a sweet spot is the highest torque, lowest RPM part of an engine's life or engine's drive cycle. And what that means is, if you can, we've all heard about moving up and to the right. Well, in this particular instance, you want to move up and to the left. The left being low RPM, and up meaning BMEP, or pressure in the cylinder. So if you can move the compression ratio and increase the pressure in the piston at a lower RPM, then it takes less fuel to run lower RPM than it does higher RPM. So you automatically get better miles per gallon. That's why diesels work so well, because they have at 1,400 RPM, they have the torque from right off of idle, right maximum. So getting back to this Infinity engine, they're giving you 14-to-1 so that when you cruise, you're not really using the turbocharger, because you're not opening the throttle to spool up the turbo. So you're cruising down the road, and when you're cruising, you need, and you can use, a higher compression ratio to get that efficiency in that engine. It's ingenious. But you know what? There's nothing new. Of course, the design is new, but it's nothing new about internal combustion engines. That's just the way they run. It's very interesting to me, and I hope to you as well. When you're the unnecessary and inefficient 8-to-1 is not good on the cruise. It's only good when you have their foot in the throttle and doing the boost. Porsche has recently patented a design I think that you'll find interesting, that puts the small end of the bearing in an eccentric adjuster to make the same kinds of adjustments as the Infinity engine. And what I mean by that is the small end of the rod has an eccentric. So if you put the piston up and put the crankshaft at the top stroke, and then you could have an eccentric that moved the piston up and down, that's pretty cool. Now, I don't know how they're going to control that. That's going to be interesting to see how they control it, and how long that system will last, because it's always adjusting itself. And when you have something that's moving in an eccentric, then there's got to be some wear there. All the more reason to change oil and filter in an automobile on a regular basis. And quite candidly, in your turbo engines, you must use a synthetic, because it gives you superior lubricity and friction fighters. But getting back to the high compression, and feel free, if you have questions, Jan will take your call at 888-227-2546. But what's so interesting here is that what Infinity is doing is they're using an offset cam effect on the crankshaft. The crankshaft does its job as always, but where the rod is connected, there's an adjustment arm there. And so the piston either reaches the top of its bore or it doesn't. And the higher the piston goes in the bore, the more compression. So at the top, it has 14 to 1. When it doesn't go all the way up, it has 8 to 1. So when the turbo kicks in, that system works with the turbo. You see all the moving parts here, the dynamics? It's unbelievable. But this is the way that you can have, and you say, well, okay, cut to the chase, Likis. What is this really worth? It's worth 27% boost in fuel efficiency. 27%. And how much does it add in weight to the engine? About 22 pounds. So you're adding 22 pounds of mechanical devices internally in the engine, but you're increasing the efficiency in the MPG 27%. And you think about that, that's unbelievable. You take a vehicle that's getting 30 miles per gallon, and you get 8 miles per gallon more out of that same engine. That is significant. And that's why you continue to see, and what I really enjoy reading and sharing with you, is the way the new technology continues to evolve. And just when you think that the internal combustion engine can't get any better, it gets better. It really is very interesting. Peugeot, for example, had a system that changed the length of the connecting rods that did the same thing. Now, that's a hard piece in there. That connecting rod, it connects to the crankshaft on the big end, it connects to the piston pin on the small end. And as such, when it does, it needs to be the same length all the time. In fact, when engines are designed for racing, and blueprinted, that's what that means, blueprinted, which means that you make all of the parts identical, down to the tens of thousands of an inch. So if all of the rods are the same length, and all of the pistons are the same size, and all of the cylinders are the same size, and all the ring end gaps are the same, and all of the valves are the same, and the ports are the same, then you maximize the power out of whether it's 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, or 8 cylinders, or 10, or 12, or 16. You maximize the power that engine produces. And if you've got an engine that for instance, you've got a V8 engine, it's say like NASCAR, and all of my engine is blueprinted, and all the pistons come to the same exact location, and you've got one of your rods that is 10 thousandths shorter than the other one, then that means that where that rod is shorter, you have 10 thousandths of an inch. That piston doesn't come to the top, so it has less compression than the other 7 cylinders. Therefore, it will not produce the same results and the same power. Now you say, well, Likis, that's nit. It is, because a newspaper is 2 thousandths. The hair on your head is 2 thousandths. But in the world of machining and the world of engine building, that 2 thousandths is huge. You're talking tens of thousandths of an inch. That's important. And when you're trying to wring everything that you can possibly wring out of it. Now, when you look at today's engines, why are today's engines so much better than the engines that they replaced? Well, it's because, number one, the manufacturing process allows, and the measurement and the lasers that are used to measure these mechanical devices are so precise that you can close up the tolerances of the engine so that you can control the emissions. You get no fuel, or rarely do you get fuel in these days in the oil, because more of the fuel is burned and there's a better seal on the pistons. So for all of those reasons, engines today are more efficient, they produce more power, and of course, as I said, they use the turbocharge that the Ford's EcoBoost. So where's the downside? Well, the good side is that the GDI, the gasoline direct injection engine, is more efficient. The downside is you don't have fuel that's going by the valve as we did with port, or we even with carburetors. The fuel went by the valve, so rarely did you have any coking problem, except that in those older engines, the valve guides were so sloppy that the oil would seep down through the guide, and they had seals, but they wore out, and that was a typical problem. So as we see engines get better in one system and one particular part of that engine, you also leave other parts of the engine exposed to carbon buildup. And so you're going to see a lot of need for, if you're driving a gasoline direct injection engine, then you should know that you're building carbon, and there's not a lot you can do about it because the engine breathes from its own crankcase, its own vapors. And just think about fast food. Make me hungry here. Think about fast food, and you think about the oven and the grill and the grease that's under the grill, which is typical because that vapors rise. Same thing in your car. The oil in the crankcase smokes because it's a high temp, 220, 230, 240 degrees. As a result, the PCV system draws that in, and it creates what I call the black lung disease because it coats the inside of the lungs of the engine and the valves with oil. Now, is that the kiss of death? Not necessarily, except that you have that same engine from the emissions that's putting exhaust back in the mouth of the engine and reburning that exhaust. Now you have particulate matter that sticks to the walls of the lungs and the valves, and then you have a little oil from the valve guides that cokes up, and coke happens when you shut the engine off and the temperatures rise, 500 or 600 degrees around that valve area. So anything that's there is like coffee in a pot where somebody doesn't take the last bit of the coffee and the bottom of the dregs of the coffee turn to debris in the bottom of the pot. That's the same thing that happens inside your engine. All the more reason that you should have what we call in the industry induction system services performed and those sorts of things. That's about all the time that I have for this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'm sure glad that you tuned in, and if you have any questions, just remember from 10 to noon Eastern Time every Saturday, we're here for you. And if you missed the program, you can go to our website or you can go to iTunes and download it. You can have it downloaded automatically so that you can listen to it at your convenience anytime that you like. But just remember, if you want to call in, then you call 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546 between the hours of 10 and noon Eastern Time. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Very interesting about this new engine that Infinity's coming out with adjustable compression ratio. How cool is that? I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
When it comes to your car battery, you expect it to work. Turn the key and go. Thanks to state-of-the-art engineering, strong, consistent starts are exactly what you get with PowerFrame Grid technology. Batteries that use PowerFrame Grid technology provide superior cranking power with up to 70% better electrical flow than other grid designs. Look for the PowerFrame logo on the outside of your next battery. It means true strength on the inside. Visit powerframe.com to find a retailer near you. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. The American race we all can win is independence from foreign oil, and the American ethanol industry's stepping up the pace. Scores of ethanol technology companies are already into the demonstration phase of production, proving that technologies which convert everything from corn stalks to grasses to garbage to algae are viable. I'm Bobby Likis with 20 facts about ethanol, brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the cultivated section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the cultivated section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with. And by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition limouls. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. For all of you who are tuned in to watch Bobby live, I'll wave at you. You can catch this program from 10 to noon Eastern Time every Saturday at Watch Bobby Live or on your local AM and or FM radio stations. The number to call is 888-CAR-CLINIC. Miss Jan will take your call. We have a couple of, we have the 800-264-5454 number. That works as well. But we also added the 888-CAR-CLINIC number so it's easier for you to remember. This segment of Bobby Likis, pardon me, where does that come from? I'm getting ahead of myself. I see that Rebecca is on the line. We're going to come back from the break and take her call and yours as well at 888 Car Clinic. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by General Tire. Now, the official tire supplier of the ARCA Racing Series. You can learn more at GeneralTire.com, and while you're there, check out General Tire's full line of technologically advanced tires like the Ultimax RT43, a smarter tire for a smarter driver. That's GeneralTire.com. 888-227-2546. Jan will take your call, put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. So, we're going to talk a little bit about cleaning your car. I'm going to share with you some information about rear view mirrors and the fact that we may see the elimination of rear view mirrors on our cars sooner than later. In the meantime, don't touch your dial. I'll be back after the break. General Tire introduces the newest addition to the Grabber family of tires. Unearthing this fall, Grabber X3 offers aggressive styling, is engineered for durability, and features numerous performance benefits. The Grabber X3, as in 1, extreme performance in mud with engineered tread features. 2, extreme performance in dirt with superior grip. And 3, extreme performance on rocks with breakthrough cut and chip resistance. Drive to GeneralTire.com and conquer your terrain with a new Grabber X3.
If you're familiar with the Kulsiford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulsiford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with. And by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed new condition lemurs. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
O'Reilly. Has the summer heat taken a toll on your vehicle's battery? Count on O'Reilly Auto Parts for the Superstart battery that's right for your vehicle. For a limited time, purchase a Superstart Premium, Extreme, or Platinum battery and get up to a $15 O'Reilly gift card by mail. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at lendingtree.com.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a face. And Regency Hospice delivers more faces to you and your loved one when life matters most. Faces of nurses, nursing assistants, social workers, and chaplains. Regency's skilled, compassionate professionals deliver comfort and individualized care. When that time of life comes to you, Regency Hospice will be there for you. Go to regencyhospice.com for more, including Hospice for Heroes Veterans Recognition Program.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad you tuned in today, every Saturday from 10 to noon. Let's go to Rebecca first, and then we'll take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Miss Rebecca, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, good morning, Bobby, and thank you for being there for all of us.
Thank you.
We just don't know what to do. I have my '89 Oldsmobile. It's been parked for a while because it has that unibody, and on the back tire, I believe it's the right, but it doesn't matter which one, and it's not attached to the actual body. It's not the tire's not hanging, but that whatever it's called, it's not attached. So I'm just in need of knowing what to do with it. Either sell it for parts to an auto place. I don't want to have it scrapped and smashed because those parts are you can find them. It's got a new computer, new tires, new whatever, and it's in really good condition.
Well, what do you think it would cost? Have you had anyone to look at it to see exactly what it needs to make it roadworthy?
Well, someone said it would cost about $3,000. They would have to take out the back seat, the back part, and then re-weld something on, in different areas. I don't even know the part that needs to be re-welded, and then put something on the unibody part. But when I had the oil changes, and those pads would always sit in the same spot instead of driving up on the ramp, and that's the area where this one, it came unattached.
Right. So that's a subframe, and they're called cradles. For instance, the engine is mounted not to the body, but to a cradle, and that cradle is mounted to the body by cradle mounts or motor mounts. It's not worth $3,000. I would agree with that, but I think you're being concerned about what do you really want to do with the car? If you're not going to spend $3,000, even though it has good parts on it, you still are only going to get X amount of money from a recycling yard, because that's where they make their money. They buy a car for $150 to $250 or whatever I don't know what the going rate is, but somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we see that quite often. I say quite often, more so than we did years back. This year, I think we've had 4 cars, and one of them belonged to one of our customers, and we advised him, don't put the money in this car. It was a car that we'd been servicing, and we'd seen it slowly going downhill. And every time that it would come in, we would make notes, and finally it came in, and not only did it need a water pump, but it needed a water pump and a radiator and hoses, and that was the beginning. And so we just and it had rust in it. So we just shared with the owner that, okay, it's time for you to think about getting rid of this automobile. And this gentleman had 2 of these vans. And so I think we took the one that had the higher mileage, which was in a better shape, and he took the other van and gave it away to, I think, public television. So
see, I don't want anybody to drive this, because if they would have it fixed and say it wasn't welded correctly, then if they're in an accident, it would come back, and it would be, even though it would be sold to them, it would be like I just wouldn't want to do that because of the liability.
Well, then by all means, Rebecca, by all means, you should sell it to a recycler, because they won't sell the car. They'll part it out like you were talking about, and that way they'll make their money, and they'll sell the computer out of it. They'll sell the tires. They'll sell the wheels. They'll sell some of the upholstery that's still good, the grill.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. So,
are they the same as a salvage yard,
yes,
a
ma'am.
Recycler?
Yes, ma'am. Well, Yes, because salvage yard. Well, no, yes and no. Gosh, that's a good question. A recycler, a junkyard's where it all began. And then, then to be politically correct, it went from junkyard to recycler, and then salvage yard. But a salvage yard, as a rule, just handles. Now, I don't know what I'm talking about here, and I'll be up front with you. But in my thoughts, a salvage yard would just take metal and crush it and sell the metal, what's left over. But a salvage yard is not. That's where your car will end up, but that's where the rusty part and the part that's bad will end up.
Right, after they sell everything off that's usable.
Exactly, right. So it's kind of one and the same.
I could probably just call the different salvage yards here in this area and then just ask them, will you sell the parts first and then recycle it? I could probably do that, yeah.
Yes, and by that same token, you might also want to check with your local public television or public radio station, because you can donate that car and it doesn't have to run. They will, in other words, versus you getting $150 or $175, $200, you could donate it to public television. And for me, I was on the board of WSRE Public Television for 6 years, and we had a lot of folks that didn't give us money, but they gave us property or they gave us old cars, and we didn't sell those cars to make money. We sold them to junkyards, but we didn't. We weren't in that business. So you could feel better about it. Is what I'm saying. I would feel better about that than a couple of $100 in your pocket. Okay.
Right. Okay, I'll ask them, and I appreciate your information in regards to that. And God bless you all.
Thank you, Miss Rebecca. Always great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Bye now. 888-227-2546. 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to call. Very interesting that this Rebecca had this Oldsmobile that was in good shape except for the chassis. So I guess ultimately you might say that she drove it long enough that the wheels were falling off of it. I didn't have the heart to tell her that, but she knows that. She's a smart lady. We'll take a call from Washington and put Victor on the phone. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. You were talking about that new engine design.
Yes.
And now you had an eccentric on the wrist pin or in the that would lift the piston and lower the piston. Was that correct?
Actually, the eccentric was on the big end, and it had a controller, and it would control the length of the stroke for that particular engine. Whereas the Porsche design does the same thing, but they use an eccentric on the wrist pin. I don't know how they would control it and turn it. That has to be electrically controlled, of course. This other unit that Infiniti has is an actuator that deals with the big end, the bottom end down there. And I've seen a diagram. I have a diagram of it. Just thought it was very interesting, and they're going to bring this to market. But first, they're going to show it at the Paris Auto Show that's coming up. And I'll tell you that it's just another example of what manufacturers are doing to increase the compression ratio and increase the power. They're making engines variable. We all know variable timings and what that does for the power of engines. But this is, I love the idea, and the idea is not new. It's just to pull it off and make it in mass so that you can mass produce the engine. That's a whole new game.
Yeah, the to be able to turn that eccentric at will. In other words, the engine operates a lot of the time without turning it, and then when the occasion comes for a different compression ratio, a desired different compression ratio, then it's they're able to control that eccentric. That's how they do that. That sounds like that would be a very complicated, hard thing to do.
Well, it's an actuator arm. It's an eccentric adjuster. But here's the point. It's not either or. It's not 14-to-1 or 8-to-1. It's variable. So as the turbo boost, let's just think about it, as the turbo boost would start to be taken away because you're backing off the throttle, i.e. you're cruising, then you increase the compression ratio as you decrease the boost. So basically, the engine thinks that, although it doesn't get as much air in, but it thinks it's got as much power, so it makes it much more efficient, because a 14-to-1 compression ratio is a whole lot more efficient than an 8-to-1, and the 8-to-1 is great only because you got the turbo that in effect is making it a 20-to-1, if you know what I mean.
You're keeping the same poundage on your compression, although you have a different ratio.
Absolutely. It's ingenious.
Well, it is, yeah. Well, the only other thing I would think of, that you have a little more weight, is make a heavier head, bolts heavier head, and a little heavier block to hold the... And then you wouldn't pay any attention, because you wouldn't have the problem, and heavier piston, I guess, and rings, so it would take the extra...
a piston is designed for a turbo. It would be the same at 8-to-1 under turbo boost. Would be the same piston you'd use in a 14-to-1 engine without a turbo. So you wouldn't. The only thing that you're adding is the eccentric and the mechanical devices that allow you to do this, and that's Infinity says it's 22 pounds. So that 22 pounds, but it's 27% increase in efficiency and MPG. That's phenomenal. Anyway, got to go. Got a break coming up. Victor, thanks. Great to hear from you as always, my friend.
You bet. Okay, thanks.
888-227-2546. When I come back, I'll take your calls. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. New federal fuel economy and tailpipe greenhouse gas emissions standards set to go into effect in 2017 present an opportunity for ethanol blends above E15. Specifically, the fuel economy mandate for cars and light-duty trucks by model year 2025 will be 54.5 mpg, doubling the fuel efficiency of those vehicles compared to new vehicles currently on our roads. Ethanol's high-octane rating, 113 for pure ethanol, will be a valuable asset to automakers as engines are designed to utilize octane to increase efficiency. Ethanol's ability to burn cleaner will help automakers meet the emission standards as well. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Drive to ethanolrfa.org. What is the number one cause of battery failure? Corrosion of the positive grid. The positive grid in the battery provides the power to start your car. Weak grids are susceptible to corrosion and expansion, leading to battery failure. Batteries with power frame grid technology inside are up to 66% more durable and more corrosion resistant than other grid designs. Look for the power frame logo on the outside of your next battery. It means true strength on the inside. Visit powerframe.com to find a retailer near you. Stant is the expert when it comes to radiator caps, thermostats, and fuel caps, supplying manufacturers as far back as Henry Ford's Model A. You can trust that Stant fuel caps will deliver OE performance. A leaking fuel cap is more than just the pain of a check engine light. Evaporating fuel costs money. Stant fuel caps are built so well they can even seal with part of the cap broken away, helping to keep you safe. Stant also offers locking fuel caps. Drive to Stant.com or your local retailer today. That's Stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip. From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us here. You know, it's so interesting to me, and after so many years in the automotive service business, to work on cars and to communicate with the car owners on a daily basis. And we do that some 50 hours a week in our service shop, and which is open 5 days a week. And we give our team off on the weekends. Yours truly is right here in the studio, and our studio is located inside a 15,000 square foot automotive service shop. So during the week, we tackle those tough jobs, and they can really be tough. We had, for instance, an Audi in the shop this week. It's a regular customer, and we've done quite a bit of work on this automobile, suspension work and brake work, and some cleaning work for the engine, and some oil leaks and those sorts of things. It had an unusual request this week. It came in, and that was that it was misfiring at 5,000 RPM. I mean, think about it. Well, really? And so we drove the car, and it did misfire. And you say, well, do you turn an engine 5,000 RPM? Well, yeah, when you accelerate. But the fact is that once it misfires, and you know it misfires, you're going to tease it every day until you get it fixed. And we checked it, and it had number 8 cylinder that was misfiring. Now, this car had new coils. It had new plugs. And the computer was in good shape, and the fuel was in good shape, and it was a gasoline direct injection. So, but you could turn it 5,000 RPM, and it would start to misfire, and then the computer, get this folks, the computer would shut that cylinder down because it was misfiring. So when you pull up to a red light, it would shake your eye teeth out because it was running on 7 cylinders. So ultimately, if you turned it off and rebooted the computer, which is exactly what we could do, it would smooth out and run fine until you turned it 5,000 RPM again. So I found that very interesting that and here's what was happening. The number 8 injector was bad. We put a number 8 injector. There was no way to test it, and you had to pull the intake manifold off to get to it, and that's no easy job. So it was one of those situations that somebody had to make a decision to, well, do we put a lot of labor in this job and pull the intake manifold off to get to the number 8 injector and replace the injector with no assurance that's going to correct the problem? Or could it be a valve spring? Yeah, it could have been. The bottom line, we did order an injector and replace the injector, and that solved the problem. So I just found it another instance, another eye-opener, really, and I share this with you for that very reason, that when you have a particular problem with an automobile, the computer recognizes that problem, and when it does, it actually will do something to try to work around that problem. In this instance, the number 8 injector was giving a problem, so it would shut down number 8 injector. And when you came down below the 5,000 RPM, even at an idle at 1,000 RPM or 750 RPM, you still had that cylinder that was dead because the computer saw it and was trying to protect the engine. Now, isn't that really something? And only when you turn the car off would the computer reset and say, okay, everything checks out all right, because we're not turning 5,000 RPM, and it would again make that cylinder come back to life. So it just goes to show you how interesting and how technically advanced the automobile is. And one of our regular watchers on Watch Bobby Live is Captain Jim, and he's a good friend of ours. He actually was the captain for John Wayne on his boat for years and years and years, and he asked the question, he has a 2013 Ford Explorer, and it has the gas tank filler that doesn't use a cap, just like the NASCAR fillers. And the question is, have we had any problems with those, and do I think that he would have a problem? And the answer is, we have had 0 problems with those gas caps. But if you'd have asked me that 2 years ago, when they first, 3 years ago, when they first came out with that idea that Ford was taking away the gas cap and going to just a deflector valve, spring-loaded deflector valve, where you just push the nozzle in, I would have said, surely, there will be problems. And in my heart of hearts, Captain Jim, I do believe that there's going to be some leakage there. But when you think about all the cars that have gas caps that leak and all the numbers of gas caps, I mean, you know, we're not only partners with Stant on this national broadcast videocast program, Car Clinic, we also install a lot of Stant gas caps in our customers' cars because they work and because that's a problem for emissions and what's called evaporative emissions, because the gas cap leaks. So we've had zero, so that's not fewer, we've had zero fuel filler leaks from Ford products that have this flap and no gas cap than we've had with cars that had gas caps. So I don't know if that really answers your question, except that I too had a concern when that technology came out, because when you push that nozzle in there, you actually open that valve and you have to score that valve. Every time you hit that plate with that nozzle, you push it out of the way and then you pull the nozzle out, and of course it closes automatically. So sooner than later, I would think that they would have to leak. So I'll be on the lookout for that, and you'll be the first to know right here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and thank you for tuning in every week. Love to have you call in when you get an opportunity. We're going to go to Florida now and take a call from Ray, who's got a TNC. It's an 08, and he got a starting problem, and you can get your call in. Miss Jan will take your call at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546, and put you in a queue, and I will put you on the air. Ray, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby. I've listened to your program on and off for years, from Wisconsin and down to Florida. But my problem is something that you're my last hope, I think. I've got a 2008 Chrysler Town & Country van, 3.8 liter V6, and I've got 105,000 miles on it. And for the last year and a half, since I've been down here in Florida for 5.5 years, I've been having starting problems. Sometimes I'll turn the key and nothing, like the battery is dead. There's no juice, but there is, because the battery shows full charge. And at other times I'll get like the click, click, click sound, but no start. Other times the engine will try to start, but doesn't run and shutters and shuts itself off. There's no code showing up at all on the computers.
Wow.
The dealership has pulled their hair out many times. They've had the vehicle in there for a week at a time trying to duplicate it, and of course it won't do it when they've got it.
Sure.
So there's my problem. They have already put in a new ground cable, thinking that would help. That didn't. They've done several other things. They replaced the EGR valve, several other things with it. But we're all stumped, and it just happened to me just before I turned the radio on. It happened to me again this morning in my driveway. So, and fortuitously, your program came on. So there's my problem. What do you think it could be?
As fate would have it. Question, is this the first time that you had cranked the car in the morning or attempted to crank it? In other words, was it a cold overnight stand?
That's the other problem. It happens both cold or hot.
But this morning, what did you? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to when it happens. That's why the dealer is crazy, because they can't seem to duplicate it when they have it there.
What did you do, if anything, to make it crank, other than just try it again and again and again?
Yeah. That's all I can do is turn the ignition key, because I still have, it's not a key actually. It's that key fob that goes into the little hole in the dash.
Right.
But all you can do is turn it to the off position. I usually count, 5 or 6 count, 7 count, to give it a chance to reset, and then give it a try again. There are times when you start it and it starts to cough if you put the accelerator down. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it still doesn't do anything. But again, I know that's fly-by-wire, so it's all connected somehow, I'm assuming, with the computer.
I think so, and here's what I would try, and this is something, because this is so erratic in its nature, what I would recommend, you may have already done this, the next time that it refuses to start, not only pull the key out, but cycle it, lock the key, and with it using a key fob, and lock the doors, and then unlock the doors using a key fob. Now, you can't do that with a smart key, because a smart key won't allow you to lock the door with the key inside the car.
Right.
But But with your TNC, you can do that. I've actually worked on several of those particular model cars, and we've had one that had a problem with a gear shift assembly, and the gear shift assembly puts the car in park and what have you. And I also had one that had a sticking ignition switch, and you would go over to the crank mode, and it would crank the car. You turn the key loose, and it would not come back. And so the radio, none of that worked because it was stuck in that transition period.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah,
the dealers replaced the wind module twice, the ignition module twice.
All right. Well, I would imagine I'm on the same page with them because we've actually had that same problem. So have you tried, or at least I think you should try if you haven't, locking the door with a key fob and then unlocking it, because what you're doing is you're cycling the security. So I think you could have now, the security has no effect on how the engine runs, and so we're just talking about the starter. But there again, let me ask this question. Has anybody ever put a starter on the car?
No, they claim that they checked it all out when they went to put. That was one of the things on the list that the service manager was going to look at. They were going to check that out when they put on a new ground, and they claimed that the starter was fine. It almost seems to me like it's where that starter gets into some spot, a dead zone on the windings. And like I said, the battery's full. In fact, I've had the place where I bought the battery with a lifetime guarantee. They've replaced the battery twice for me, hoping that would help the problem for no cost. They've even been in a deal too. But that hasn't helped either.
So, Ray, here's what I suggest, and here's what I really think. I believe in my heart of hearts that the commutator, and you know what that is, that's the part of the windings of the starter that you're talking about.
Right.
I believe that at random, there's one particular place that it just doesn't like, and there's a problem. And that happens in there's no rhyme or reason, which is exactly what you have here, no rhyme or reason. And so if it were my vehicle, even if it didn't, now understand this, you'd have to agree with the dealer. When they replace the starter, there's no guarantee it's going to fix the problem. But I would tell you, if you were my customer, and that was my car, and that's the best you can humanly do, especially considering this has been ongoing for too long, put a starter on the car, okay?
Yeah, and I asked them to do that, and they told me that because I'm still under a factory extended warranty.
Hold on,
and they told me they can't do that.
We got a break. Hi, folks, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Vehicle Maintenance Spotlight, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Need new brakes? If your brakes are spongy or squealing, or your vehicle won't stop without pumping them, the answer is yes. Before your brakes fail, find the quality brake parts you need at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Brands you trust, like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermal Quiet, all at guaranteed low prices. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermo Quiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved. that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us here. Folks, we were talking with Ray at the break there, and what Ray had was a town and country, an 08, that had such erratic starting behavior, and the dealer could not duplicate it. And that's really some of the problems that we have in the automotive service business as well. So I can understand how it can be frustrating to you as the owner because, you know, hey, we're supposed to know this stuff. But the bottom line, given the electronics in cars today, there's no rhyme nor reason why some cars give a problem. Now, there's always a reason for electronics to fail once you found the problem. It's like a needle in a haystack. You know, somebody would call and say, Bobby, I've got an electrical problem. What do you charge to fix it? Well, that's hard to say because it's like a needle in a haystack. I won't charge you anything to extract the needle from the haystack, but I will charge you by the hour to find the needle in the haystack. And the challenge there, folks, is that you can't just give your car a blank check to a shop because you need to know and be apprised. So you do it by the hour or by, and that's what we do. We charge by the hour, but we charge 1 hour up front. And then in that 1 hour, we get having ASE certified technicians, we get an idea just how technically challenging it's going to be. And so when you're into a job, whether you're an automotive technician or a house painter, or you're writing a book, you get into the first few pages, or you get into the first side of the house to paint, you've got an idea of what you're up against. But you don't know that initially going in. You never know in the service industry. So it's not like buying a set of tires or buying a couch that's new and you pick it out, I want that one, and you take it home and you put it there. And even then, sometimes you pick out a couch that you think would look really great in your house, and it doesn't. Bottom line, you want to make sure that you give the shop all the information that the shop may need, even if you don't know how to tell the shop. It's not your job to tell the shop, hey, my brakes are bad, I need new pads. It's your job to tell the shop, here's what my car's doing that I don't like. It did not used to do this, so what's it going to take? And so when Ray was on the phone, and he didn't stay to the break, I had to cut him off because we had a hard break there, but he did have this problem. And Dan had actually has called in because he had an 02 with the same problem that he has had it corrected. So I'm going to put him on, and then Steve is calling from Texas. So Steve, you stay there, and let's go to Dan. And Dan, I understand that you have a challenge, and you had it corrected on your 02 Town and Country. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby.
Yes, good morning.
I couldn't help but overhear what was going on, and oddly enough, I had a 2002 Chrysler Town and Country in the 80,000 mile range that developed the same problem. Crazy enough, it happened to be an oil leak, a very minute oil leak coming out from underneath the valve cover above the starter, and that oil was dripping down, shutting out the starter, and finally it shut it down completely.
Wow.
I wound up having to take it into the shop, and of course they pulled the valve covers off, had to replace the valve cover gaskets, and at that point the starter was ruined and had to be replaced. But that was how they corrected my problem.
Well, of course, there again, every problem has its own cause and effect, and that's what we're all about in the automotive service industry is cause and effect. Well, you know, so your problem with the valve covers leaking is a common problem. You have to pull the intake manifold to get to that rear valve cover. And so we're familiar with that, but this gentleman, Dan, this race vehicle was under warranty, and right at the very end of the conversation, I had to cut him because we were going to a break, but right at the very end of the conversation, he said, well, the dealer would not replace the starter because the car was under warranty, and they wouldn't buy a starter. But I found it really interesting that they'd put a couple of wind units on it, and they had already put a couple of computers on the car that were under warranty. So I could understand in a situation where the dealer would be hesitant to replace a part that was working while that vehicle was in their stalls. By the same token,
the dealer wouldn't do this repair job for me under warranty.
Well, was the car under warranty? Was the oil leak under warranty?
He refused to do anything. So I wound up having to pull it out, and I took it to an independent shop that I have used in the past that I have very good luck with. They were able to do the repair work and get the car back in operation for me. But it was just odd that a minute oil leak could cause that type of a problem.
Yes, sir. I agree 100%. And to that end, we had before, years ago, oxygen sensors deteriorated because the air conditioner water would fall down onto the connector of the O2 sensor, and so they had to change the connector location, and a lot of O2 sensors are connected inside the car, and the wire it runs from the O2 sensor through the floorboard through a grommet and then connects inside the car. So water intrusion, oil intrusion, all those things are, especially with electrical, yeah, you're right on the money there. Hey, Dan, thank you so much for sharing your story with us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Appreciate it, and thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, sir.
Have a good
always.
day.
You as well. 888-227-2546. Steve, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning. How are you, Bobby?
I'm just fine. How about yourself, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Hey, I talked to you a week before last, right at the end of the show, and you told me to call back.
Okay.
Regarding a 2006 Chevy half-ton pickup truck. Where my engine light came on, I had a local auto parts store put a diagnostics thing in it, whatever you call that. And they told me, I believe it was an 0441 fault code, and I think you said something about evac.
Well, it was a EVAP, EVAP, which is evaporative emissions. And so those codes, like a leaking gas cap, I mean, that's a common, gosh, you talk about spreading rumors. I don't know how car owners got onto this, but, I mean, we have people that come in and say, my check engine light's on. I've already put a new gas cap on it, so it's good business for Stant because they're selling a lot of gas caps, whether or not they're leaking or not. But the bottom line, if the vapors from the fuel tank are allowed to go into the atmosphere, that causes pollution, and so that's part of the car's emission control, and really does work. In fact, what is really brilliant about and technologically improved about today's cars is that when you turn the car off, you can walk away from the car, and the car itself, 4 or 5 minutes later, after it's shut down, will go into a test mode and check the evaporative emissions to make sure that the tank can hold pressure. And you say, well, how much pressure can you put on the tank? Well, you only need a half a pound of pressure to determine if that pressure will stay. Like a balloon, you blow up a balloon, it holds that pressure for X amount of time. And so in this case, a lot of times, Steve, vehicles will have a pump, and that pump has cycles. Just like if you blow up, how many breaths does it take to blow a balloon up, say 2 inches in diameter? Well, it takes 4 breaths, okay? So if the pump pumps 4 times and the pressure meets the specs, then the pressure sealing of the gas cap must be okay. If the pump has to run a dozen times or a dozen breaths to bring that pressure up, hey, there's a leak there because it should have already sealed and already held the pressure. And then there are some cars that actually use vacuum on some of those emissions. Toyota uses vacuum, which is a very sophisticated system, and has given us a lot of headaches in the past to find those minor leaks. So let me understand, your 06 half-ton Chevy has this code. Have you done anything with it this week or in the last couple of weeks?
No, actually, when it first came on, what it said on the, I call it the idiot light,
right.
Gas cap loose.
Right.
I pulled over, I checked it, I hadn't forgot it at the gas station or anything like this, and so I thought, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, I've got 104,000 miles on this truck, that I needed a new cap. So I did go buy a new cap, and it has not resolved the problem.
Well, of course, that just only means that what I just said, that there's much more to the system. There are hoses that run from the gas tank to the engine that are sealed on both ends. There should be. And then there's a solenoid on the engine. It's evaporative emission solenoid, and when you're cruising down the road, the engine will actually take the fumes from the gas tank and burn those fumes. And you know, Steve, what's really great about that is anytime the engine is burning fumes from the gas tank, it's drawing less fuel from the gas tank, so you're increasing gas mileage. So all those vapors that used to come out, in fact, I'll share this with you, in the 60s, as the story goes, and the technological advancements that were made, if you parked a car in your driveway, now in 2000, if you drove from D.C., District of Columbia, to Manhattan and back, the emissions that would be released from the gas tank of the vehicle would be less than if you set a 65 car in your driveway all day long with the engine shut down in the hot sun. And the reason is that in older cars, they just had an overflow pipe that came out the back of the car, and if the gas heated up and you had a full tank, you could actually see raw fuel coming out of the overflow pipe. But that's a no-no in the way it's cars done today. So my advice to you, Steve, is to take it in and let a service shop. And let me give you do you have a service shop that you frequent, or would you like me to give you?
I've got one.
Okay.
Within 10 miles I can go to.
All right. Well, do that then, and let them at least spend an hour to determine if the leak is at the gas tank and the module for the evaporative emissions, or it's under the hood, or one of those hoses, or somewhere in between. And we use a smoke test in many cases where we induce smoke into the system, and then we just take a flashlight and go around all of the nooks and crannies, and when we see smoke coming out, whoop, there it is.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes, cool. Okay.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Thanks. Have a great week. Thanks for calling back.
You did the same. Bye-bye.
888-227-2546. We'll take a call from Daryl. Daryl has information about an 08 TNC that on the starting problem. Daryl, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, man.
Yeah, I also have an 08 Town and Country. Have the same intermittent problem with the starting.
Yes.
If the vehicle's in park and you try to start it, it does the same as the other gentleman said. But I found that if you put the vehicle, turn it into the key into on position, and put the vehicle into neutral, it starts every time for me. And I've gone online, and apparently this is a common glitch, and that little solution has solved it for me every single time. Simply putting the vehicle into neutral.
Well, I should have thought about that because and thanks for sharing that with us, Daryl. Because we actually had we replaced the shifter assembly on one of our customers' cars because of that very same. So that was part of our repair that we had done. But ironically, the dealer never refused to start with the dealer. So you can't really blame the dealer because if you can't replace parts when you don't know that there's a problem, or you can't prove there's a problem.
Right, because the first time I tried it, I actually got out of the vehicle. I did the remote start, and the vehicle started right up with the remote start. And then when I got into the vehicle, it would not let me shift it into drive. So then I turned the vehicle back off, and then it started again perfectly. I thought that was a strange little glitch there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that's
But
really
I thought that tip might help other drivers out there.
Well, no doubt it will, and I really appreciate you calling in and sharing that story. It's always great because we have people all over the country that are listening, and not necessarily that their problem is the same as yours, but it's all in the same family, and the sharing of information. And to that end, in the automotive service industry, we have several subscribed to sites where we share information with other technicians. AllData is one of them. There's an AllData community, and you've heard me talk for years about AllData. And so if I have a problem and then I have a solution, I go to that community and I post that problem with a verified solution. And that's going to save a shop and a customer money in another state or in another country. So it's really great to be able to share stories, and that's another a facet of this program that I truly enjoy, is sharing those the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly. It's just our nature of our business. Hey, I really appreciate you calling.
I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. I mentioned earlier about rear view mirrors, and I don't really have time to get into that, so I'm not going to try to cram in this last few minutes of the show today. But I will next week. You want to tune in because there's a company, Ichiko, and this company is Japanese-based, that's created something called a smart rear view monitor. And it's all about replacing mirrors with screens that are located on the stack. And the stack is a center stack. So if you have a backup camera for your car, do you use that, or do you still use the mirror? And also, if you had no rear view mirror, could you train yourself to look down at the stack to determine if you were going to pass someone or someone was on your, in your sight? So it's very interesting, and next week I'll share that information with you. And also, I promise I'll get to the clean car, the fun to drive information, how to clean your automobile, because there's some really tricks of the trade there that will save you a lot of money and keep your car running fresh and clean. And a beautiful car drives better than a car that is not. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, here's more news regarding our testing of the Diablo Sport iTune i2 Performance Programmer. After several weeks of driving, we continue to be impressed with the features of the i2. Gas mileage has improved a bit, but throttle response has come alive. Dramatic performance improvement with so little work in the way of installation. The Easy Tune features make it, easy, asking you things like what octane gas you're using, tire size, and more. Drop a tune on your ride in just minutes. The iTune i2 holds up to 5 custom tunes. Start with preset performance tunes, then make adjustments to suit your own needs. You can also access Diablo Sport's worldwide network of CMR or custom tuning tuners. Use this software to unlock your vehicle's true potential. Learn more at DiabloSport.com, and while you're there, check out the sizzling savings rebate through August 31st, where you can get money back on the iTune, i2, and Trinity Performance Programmers. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain